Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Anime Banter podcast with your hosts, Turtle, Sean, and Mike. Thank you for joining us today. How are you all doing?
I'm just doing great. How about you guys?
No complaints from me. Doing all right.
Doing pretty good myself. What's new in the world of Turtle and Sean?
Well, I got I did something very interesting recently. I played Destiny 2 with a group of friends, and one of them, two of them, I guess, they're both my friend, but they're a married couple. Um, the woman is pregnant, and uh, we don't know the gender, so they said we're gonna have a gender reveal party. And we said, okay. Well, what are you gonna do for that? And they said, oh, we're gonna do it in Destiny 2. Because mostly we rate, we're mostly like a Destiny 2 Discord server. Um, so we said, okay, I wonder how that's gonna go. So we all get into a raid group, right? We get 6 people together. Only the father of the child is um joining the raid. The mother of the soon-to-be child will she decided to sit out. She just wanted to hang out, even though she does play. So we load into the raid, and there he is standing there in with a pink shader on his gear, wearing all pink. And we were like, "Oh, it's a girl!" And then we said, "Oh, we're all going pink, pink raid. Let's go, girl raid." So we all donned our pink and completed the Last Wish raid together. Uh, and it was a great time, honestly. So congrats to my friends. It's a girl.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. Congrats. Today, we are talking about episodes 5 and 6 of Vinland Saga Season 1. Episode 5, The Troll's Son. Episode starts, and tragedy has struck. Askeladd's crew has ran out of booze. Maybe they shouldn't have dumped all that wine in the previous episode. And when I was watching this, all I can think of was, that's what you get, you bastards.
You called it, man. You said this was going to happen.
Rest in peace.
So, beyond the booze being gone, which is tragic in its own right, Thorfinn, whew, that kid is having a rough go of it. He is straight up not having a good time. He's dying of thirst. He tries to drink some water only to realize that it's salt water. And he's walking in the forest after after Askeladd's crew docks, and he slips on the grass and knocks himself unconscious. When he wakes up, he's like, "Oh, thankfully there's water." And he's so happy to drink. And at first I'm like, "Okay, is this legit? Like, is this actual water, or is this some like hazy dream of sorts?" But it's real water, and he's so happy, and then he realizes how hungry he is.
This poor kid is struggling right now.
Yeah. The only thing driving him is anger.
He is all aboard the struggle bus. So after Thorfinn realizes everything, we see Askeladd's crew getting ready to pillage a village. And on the ledge, there is this guy, and so far the animation in this show has been really well done across the board. And then we see this character who just looks so out of place in the show. Like, we have not seen a character like this guy at all. Like, the art has never looked like this. No character has looked like this. And I had to do like a double take. I'm like, what am I watching? Like, did something slip into this episode all of a sudden? And so I do some digging on this character. And this character's name is Ears.
What a ridiculous name. Though
I
it
mean,
is accurate.
it's very accurate, seeing that he had massive ears and was being used as like to figure out where people were. Like, he could be like, his hearing was so good, he'd be like, yes, 2 on the right. Someone's coming up behind us. Here's this, like, here where other people are. It's like, okay. But yeah, the name was spot on.
Very on the nose.
I was Are we gonna get a character named Nose in the future who can just sniff out where people are?
And then a character named Eyes who can see really good. Maybe a character named Hair with long flowing locks.
A character named Tongue who looks like Gene Simmons.
So without getting too in depth, they did a really good job showing the Viking pillage of a village, all the slaughter, carrying women off to. Well, I don't want to elaborate on that, but
Yeah.
just if you know your Viking history, you know what happens.
It's not good. But I'm
It,
glad it's
No.
not. I'm glad that things aren't like ultra graphic in the
yeah, I'm
show.
glad
They
they.
could have gone the Game of Thrones route.
Yeah, they. I'm glad they like just showed you to like let your mind wander and know like if you knew Vikings, you knew what was about to happen, and they didn't go any farther.
Yeah. That was the best choice.
So we see Thorfinn, and he has revenge on his mind. He's walking through the burnt out village, and he's looking for food, and then he looks in a hut, and he sees Askeladd sleeping, and he sneaks in, and he's like, "All right, time to get revenge." And he lifts his sword, and he's ready to take off Thorfinn's head, or to take off Askeladd's head, and he stops himself, and he keeps like thinking about it, and he decides, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And we see Askeladd open his eyes. Like a couple things here. One, the sword made a ridiculous amount of noise for being unsheathed.
Yeah. I noticed that too.
It's like, hold on, like is this sword just flimsily made that we're getting all this noise, or what's going on here? And two, Askeladd, you could tell is like he's thinking if it happens, fine. Like there are moments that you see Askeladd feeling guilty for what he did to Thor's.
Definitely.
So the next morning, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd to a duel, and everyone just starts laughing. They're like, "This kid, he can't even like swing his sword. How's he gonna duel Askeladd?" And they're all getting their laughs, and it goes as well as you would expect. Thorfinn charges at Askeladd, and just Askeladd just steps to the side, and Thorfinn just eats shit.
There's some kind of like wooden planks outside the village where they're at, and like his sword, he swings like from over his head downward, and it just lands and gets stuck in one of the planks of wood. And Thorfinn can't even get the sword out, and Askeladd just like kicks him in the gut, and it's over.
Oh man, when he's kicking him in the gut, it's so brutal to watch. I could just like think about what it would be like to get kicked like that. It would hurt so bad.
Especially as a scrawny 6-year-old boy.
It, he's hungry. He hasn't anything to eat. It's gonna hurt even worse getting kicked in the stomach.
And Askeladd tells him, the sword, you're supposed to swing the sword, not the other way around. So the duel ends, and one of Askeladd's crew members offers him like a bone with very little meat on it, like, and he's sort of being a dick about it. And Thorfinn refuses to eat, and the crew member's like, "I was just trying to be nice." Like, and I could see like Thorfinn's probably thinking, "Screw you, you guys killed my father. I don't want anything from you." And like the guy was being a little bit of a dick about it, but it's also like, dude, you're getting offered some sort of food. Like, take it, maybe.
You got to take what you can get,
Yeah, I
and
was thinking the same thing.
So we see Thorfinn fail miserably at hunting for food. He tries to hunt a rabbit, fails.
Oh my gosh, that was the freaking funniest thing to me when he like dives at the rabbit and like stabs the ground.
shit.
I was laughing so hard.
Then he finds some acorns or nuts, and he's all excited, and he starts chewing them up, and he immediately spits them out. And then he goes back to the camp to find a bone, and it looks like there might be some leftover meat on it. And when he tries to gnaw on the bone, he can't get anything off, and he's just crying and saying "damn" and all upset. They really should have just called this the montage episode, because there are like
Oh,
two. There's at least 3 montages in this episode
this is the
between.
this is the depression montage.
Yeah, yeah. So next morning, Floki's men come up to Askeladd, say, okay, yeah, we confirmed that Thor's is dead. Here's your payment. And they're asking him, like, oh, how was, like, just asking him about the death. And Askeladd's rather calm. He's like, yeah, he's dead. It was a normal death. It is what it is. Like, not really, like, going into it at all.
I
And
found that
also,
really interesting because it seemed like Askeladd like got this large amount of respect for Thor's in just the brief time that he knew him, and he totally brushed this off to Floki's men. That kind of has me scratching my head. Like, I wonder why he didn't elaborate, or just why did he say what he did so nonchalantly?
I wonder if it's because he's not very proud of the way it went down.
He definitely does not seem proud.
no.
Yeah, so
I could definitely see that as part of it. And maybe he's also, like, wondering if they'll look for Thorfinn and he's just trying to protect him.
That's a fair point.
I don't know if yeah, I guess we gave a bunch of details about his kid maybe, but I don't know. I think part of its shame probably is I think he feels that Floki doesn't really deserve an explanation.
That's true. He sort of
It's
assumed that Floki was tricking them.
yeah, he's like, screw you, I'm not telling you how he died. He died a normal death, okay? Yeah, move on. You know, like it. So I don't know. It might just be like a kind of a middle finger to Floki a little bit.
We dropped a house on him. That's how he died.
Bringing the
We
house down.
we took a house. Actually, we took houses. We just dropped them on him.
Very wicked witch of the east.
And we're back on the island, and Leif returns with Thor's belongings, and he gives them to Helga and Yova. And Leif is promising that he'll find Thorfinn, and don't worry, he'll take care of everything. And Yova was surprisingly calm about everything. Like, she was calm about Thor's death, saying, "Oh well, he's probably gonna die soon, anyways," with how he was acting. And then, like, she learns about her brother's disappearance, and she doesn't really react at all. Like, she's telling her friends, "Oh yeah, it's fine. They'll find him." And then we see Yova afterwards taking control of everything. Like, she's attending the animals, she's feeding them, she's hunting, she's working on the blankets. Like, she's doing all this stuff. And you could tell, like, she's just staying busy to avoid her grief. And she's like, "No, I'm fine. Like, maybe I'll even get a husband because we're going to need some help." And then we see Helga, like, holding her hands, telling her to stop working. And Yova breaks down.
I thought it was a really good representation of how a lot of people deal with grief. I believe there are a lot of people who lose a parent, a sibling, a spouse, who the way they cope is to like dive into their work, right? Because if you're working, you're not thinking about it. So it wouldn't surprise a lot of people who dealt with grief that way, where they're just like, I'm just gonna work and work and work and keep working. I'm not gonna think about this. And you know, it's a very accurate representation of how a lot of people would deal with that.
She's definitely in the denial phase of the 5 steps of grief. Like, she may not be denying the death and disappearance, but she's denying, like, she's staying so busy that she can't do anything else.
She's
Yeah, like if
denying herself the chance to process this, and in a case like this, it sucks. You know, you lost someone or multiple people dear to you. It's a terrible thing, but it's a part of life. It's something that does happen. You know, sometimes it might be expected. You know, maybe it's like a grandparent who, you know, you can tell is not going to be long for this world. Um, you know, it could be something sudden like a car accident or something, but this is it's a real life scenario where this happens every day to all kinds of people, and you need to allow yourself the time to stop, grieve, and acknowledge and accept what has happened and actually process this. You know, in Ilva's case, she's just ignoring it and plowing through work. Hey, I got stuff to do. I'm too busy. That's not a real healthy way to deal with this. You have to acknowledge, yeah, it sucks. It's sad. It's not fun, but it's a part of life, unfortunately. and you need to be able to accept and deal with this before you just move on and pretend it didn't happen.
So we're back to Thorfinn's gang, and Bjorn is traveling through the woods and he finds Thorfinn. And he notices that Thorfinn's getting. He's like, one, he's still a little surprised that he's still alive. And Bjorn sort of is like, hey, like, Bjorn's trying to be helpful in his own way. And Thorfinn's having none of it. He's like, you're a bastard. You're like, you took me hostage. I don't want anything from you. You killed my father. Like, and we see Bjorn and Askeladd talking, and Askeladd, whether it's an act or not, is surprised that Thorfinn is still alive. Like, part of me is like, it's an act. He knows Thorfinn is still alive somehow, and part of me is like, maybe he just doesn't care. Like, right now, it's if Thorfinn lives, he lives. If he dies, he dies.
Oh yeah, Rocky reference.
And it's late at night. Thorfinn is still in the woods by himself, and he gets jumped by a wolf. And he tries to swing his sword at the wolf, and he has no results. And then he hears Askeladd's voice saying, "You're supposed to swing the weapon, not the weapon swinging you." So he pulls out his dagger, and he's able to protect himself from the wolf. And he seems surprised to see the blood on his hands and the dagger.
I imagine that's the first time something like this happens. It's a shocking thing. Like you're taking a life, even if it's self defense. You're still taking a life. So he's got to
And
be able to process that as well.
even though it's not human, it still doesn't matter. I doubt he's killed anything.
I don't necessarily think he killed the wolf. Because, like, the wolf sort of, like, lays down and just, like, hangs out.
He totally stabbed it in the jugular. It is dead. It is dead. They even show it like coughing up blood, and then it just like sits, and it's like, well, I'm dead.
Yeah.
After this, we get an amazing training montage of Thorfinn hunting for the rabbit, getting better with the dagger, and I'm just a sucker for montages. Love them.
Absolutely. And we actually they show him practice like with the knife and like throwing the knife, like target practice as well. And I'm like, that's something that he should be practicing. So that's
It
good.
it was really cool seeing him cut the leaves off the branches without hitting the branch at all.
Yeah.
And like just seeing him like figure out ways to work the dagger to his like for his size. But I gotta ask a question. How the hell is he surviving in the woods without food? Like, we don't see it, but is Askeladd or someone from his crew like dropping some food off in the woods for him or something? Because like he clearly before this point he wasn't having any success hunting. Like he has a source of water, but how is he surviving?
Well,
I
I
know.
think
Did he eat some wolf meat?
they don't actually show that, but I would if that was me. I mean, you killed the wolf, you might as well eat.
Yeah, I assume he lived off that for a day or two, probably. I don't. Probably a day, because I imagine the meat gets spoiled otherwise.
Yeah. They do show him like in the montage getting the rabbit.
And maybe he finds some. Yeah, maybe he finds some plants to eat after spitting up some acorns.
I mean, I think you can survive like 2 to 3 weeks without food. So I don't think he's been there for like a week. It only seems like a couple days.
Though he's doing a lot of work, though. Like you could survive a few weeks without food, I think, but like doing as much work as he's doing, I wonder if that wears you down. I hadn't considered it.
So they say about 1 week, but if you have water, you can do 2 to 3 months, which sounds miserable.
Absolutely. I didn't say it was comfortable, but he can survive.
So the training montage ends, and Thorfinn walks up to Askeladd again, much more confident this time, and once again challenges him to a duel, saying, "I am the son of Thor's. I challenge you in a duel." Yada yada yada. And Askeladd, like, he's laughing it off at first, and Bjorn is like, "Dude, you have to accept. Like, your crew wants to see it happen. You need to accept. And so they start dueling. And you could tell Thorfinn has gotten a little bit better, but Askeladd is clearly holding back. And it gets to the point where Askeladd is just tired of Thorfinn's shit and starts mercilessly kicking him and just beating the piss out of him to the point where Bjorn is like, dude, stop. Like, we get it. Like, we've seen, like, it's enough is enough. And Askeladd's like, oh, this is what you wanted, right? And he eventually stops. He's like, all right, I'm not going to kill a kid. And Thorfinn gets up, pretty much goes, one more round, Mick, one more round. And
cut me, Mick.
Askeladd is like, no, like, prove yourself on the field of battle, and then I promise you a duel. And I thought this was funny because Askeladd's like, he says to trust a warrior's promise, which is rich coming from the guy who refused to honor the rules of the duel with Thor's.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's like, hold on. You just dueled one of the most honorable men out there, and you pretty much cheated throughout the entire thing. And now you're like, oh, well, trust me. Trust my warrior's promise. But when he said, like, all right, prove yourself on the battlefield, I'm like, oh, yeah. Time for Askeladd to be the mentor.
Oh yeah, and it definitely happens, as we're going to see very soon.
And now it is time for Mike's Beer of the Week. This week's beer comes to you from Noble Beast Brewing. It is their Baker's Russian, a 12.3% pastry stout brewed with freshly roasted marshmallows, toasted coconut, cacao nibs, and rich English malts. I got this beer straight from the source, as I was in Cleveland a couple weeks ago for my birthday with my wife. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first time I've ever been there, and that was super cool. So much to see. Nominated Dream Theater for a fan vote for nomination. Shout out to Dream Theater.
Oh yeah.
And that night we were supposed to go to the Lake County Captains minor league baseball game. We got out to the field and it was raining on the way out. And they originally it was delayed, and then they end up postponing the game, saying storms were on the way in. Like, okay, what do we do now? And originally we were going to try and go to a barcade, but parking in the area was a nightmare. So we found this brewery close to our hotel. We're like, oh, let's go there. And this stout was absolutely incredible. Like 12.3%, so it'll knock you on your ass. And usually I'm not a huge stout guy in the summer just because of how hot it is out. But this stout was so damn smooth. If you're ever in the Cleveland area, I would definitely recommend checking out Noble Beast. And if they still have the Baker's Russian, definitely get this beer. Assuming you have someone to drive or an Uber. But yeah, definitely check this beer out if you're in the area. The Untapped average rating was a 4.3, and I give it a 4.5. Episode 6. The Journey Begins. I love how this is episode 6, and it's now just being called The Journey Begins. We've watched 5 episodes, and it's like, okay, now we're getting into the real story.
This is one of the things that I loved about like the older anime, which were just longer by nature, is they had more time to flesh out characters and build the story at its own pace and not be bound by 12 or 13 episodes.
Everything feels more you're looking at the episode counter for like you're like, oh no, we're gonna get to 12 episodes. This is how the story has to progress, and then you realize there's a second season. And you're like, oh, there's a long story. They can give us like a long form story, and I'm really looking forward to telling the story at the pace that they want to tell it instead of feeling like they have to rush things into a 12 episode season.
Yeah, or even like cut stuff out to make it fit into those 12 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're 5 episodes in, and it has not been a drag at all at any point, in my opinion. But just knowing that it's like, okay, well, we're only after this 6 episodes in, and we still have 3 quarters of the season left. Like, even if things slow down, I don't mind because we're not trying to rush the second half of the season. We have 18 more episodes to talk about for just season one. It's like, okay, if you want to build, go for it. Like, I know with Trigun, my big gripe was how slow the first 6 to 8 episodes were, like for a 12 episode season. And we have not had that at all with this show. And even if we did, it's like, okay, well, we still have plenty of time to talk about everything and not rush the rest of the season.
Yeah, I feel like pacing for the show has been really, really good. They're telling the story they want to tell at their own rate, and I haven't felt like bored or uninterested yet. Like it just everything has been gripping me, and we're 6 episodes in, and it's just beginning.
The main show opens with the rain falling. It's just funny to see Askeladd's crew embracing the rain. You see Bjorn drinking it. Others are using it to shower, saying, "Oh yeah, this will really kill the fleas and get them off me." And then you just see Thorfinn just sitting there, like pissed at the world, and everyone's like, "What the hell is his problem? Like, why is he just sitting there?"
Because he's furious. He's powered only by rage.
Viking rage, Viking rage.
It really does seem like only motivated by one thing, though.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good way to go through life.
And now we get the return of the narrator, which I thought was really cool. He's sort of the narrator has gone away the past couple episodes, but I really like how every once in a while the narrator will just show up and like explain the history of what's going on or like give a little bit more in-depth information that they don't need to show in the show itself. Like he came like the narrators explaining the history of Denmark and England and the Vikings. I thought that was really cool because it's like at the end of the day, this like is a historical anime in some semblance. So to just get that background information without like it slowing the show down at all was really cool.
Yeah, I think sometimes I don't know if it's considered cliche, but I like the use of a narrator for a situation like this instead of having a character in the show approach the main character and explain it to the main character so we the viewer can understand. Sometimes just give me a narrator to give me a quick summary before getting back into the action.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind a narrator. Uh, sometimes what you can do with a narrator, you can cut like 5 minutes of an episode out instead of trying to come up with a creative way for the characters like displaying that. Just let me know what happens. I'm
I
fine.
loved the narrator in Dragon Ball Z.
Same.
Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
Usually the narrator actually like the narrator always has like a cool voice and they do a really good job of summing things up for you in case you miss something. And I don't know. I'm a big fan.
Askeladd and his crew dock on the shores of England and they're walking and they see all these dead bodies and they're like, there's more dead bodies here than we thought there would be. And most of the crew's just walking by, not paying any attention to it. And Thorfinn sees his first real sights of guts and just pukes. And we're starting to see. I mean, we have been, but we're seeing the differences between Thorfinn's play war that he would do with his friends and real war.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty normal reaction to the first time seeing the insides of a person not being
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
My inside's on the outside.
I'm definitely not a fan of bloody gory stuff, so I'm glad they didn't really go into detail again. We're seeing Thorfinn's reaction, not why he's reacting. So I appreciate that, animators. Thank you.
So it's the night of the first night of, and Askeladd is offering his services to the Vikings for 7 pounds of gold, all the women, and all the treasure and food of the English lord. And the Viking counters with 5 pounds of gold and everything else Askeladd could have. They agree and they pretty much say, okay, we'll start tomorrow. And then shit hits the fan. The English have Askeladd's crew surrounded, and they're after they agree on the deal, the Viking warrior gets an arrow through the throat to say, "Hey, the English are here! Surprise, motherfucker!"
And I think his comrade that was with him got shot in the head like right after. So do they still have a deal?
That's a good question. I don't
Because
know if there's really a deal to be had, or if it's more just Askeladd and his crew protecting themselves, and later in the episode just taking revenge at this point,
we had a deal, and then the people we made the deal with died. So let's survive this.
and then kill them anyways.
That was the first thing that went through my mind. It's like, oh, they just made a deal, and now those guys are dead. So do they have a deal? Who were those people negotiating for?
Yeah, it's not like anything like was exchanged, like a chip to like prove like, yep, we made a deal. Like give this to whoever, and we'll know to give you payment or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if anything's ever going to come of that, but yeah, I thought that was just kind of it was kind of wild, like, hey, we need you to help us fight the English, and then those dudes just croaked.
And this is now Thorfinn is seeing his first battle up close and personal. Like he's heard the stories, he's played the play wars, but he's in the thick of it now, and he's a little shocked. I would say he's trying to run away, and an English soldier spots him, and he's like, "Well," and the English soldier's like, "What are you like?" And the English soldier knows he's a Viking, he's a Dane, and he goes to kill Thorfinn, and Askeladd protects him, and Askeladd's like, "Oh, sorry, thought you were dead already."
That's so mean.
It's kind of funny. Oh, he's like, I expected you to not make it out of this. Nice work. Well, that's why Askeladd's not too worried, right? He's like, oh man, it's like before I consider this kid quote unquote worthy, he's definitely gonna die.
Yeah, I don't think Askeladd's like, whatever happens to him is fine. Like, if he lives, cool. If he dies, whatever. One less thing on my conscience.
Yeah, Askeladd's not like training Thorfinn, but he's trying to give Thorfinn a fighting chance to do it himself. A real trial by fire. Like, hey, if you get killed on your own, that's on you. But I'll at least give you a chance to try to fight back and survive on your own.
Sucks to suck if you die, but if you live, good for you.
Yeah,
We see Thorfinn kill his first man.
he's in it to win it now.
That'll mess you up.
Yeah. And he breaks down immediately after realizing what happened. Like, he realizes, oh shit, I just killed someone. Yes, I was protecting myself. And he just starts crying on the battlefield.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
I loved the art when Bjorn slashed that guy and the blood just sort of sprays across the screen, and the blood is almost moving in slow motion to the point where it just like sort of stops on the screen so you could really like appreciate the depth and the visual of the art, or the visual of the blood from the cut like on the screen. It almost had like a 3D feel to it. It was really cool looking.
No, I mean the animation in general for this show, I've been very impressed with what they've been bringing forward.
Yeah, it's been
And
really good so far.
speaking of like the gore, I feel like they've been doing things very tastefully in this show. Where like, yeah, we get the gore, but it's not like a gratuitous amount of gore. You know what I mean? They don't have to go into extreme detail. Like we know people are bleeding. Like, so they do a really good job of like towing that line of like it's a little too realistic and over the top. We don't want to see what it would actually be like to like stab a person and see how much blood there is. You know what I mean? Like we don't need gritty realism. Like it's close enough with what they do. And I appreciate that actually. I don't need super gritty realism.
We know people are dying. We don't need to see the step by step
We
of
need
them
someone's
dying.
intestines falling out. Like I don't
Yeah.
need to see someone's intestines falling out. I don't need to see it.
I mean, it might
Yeah.
happen in a future
Yeah,
episode.
maybe they do it once for shock value for one episode, whatever. But like, yeah, I don't need to see that every episode. Unnecessary.
No, I agree. I think everything has been really tasteful considering, that we got two warring factions, people are dying. And, earlier in the episode where Thorfinn sees all the dead bodies and he pukes, they didn't show all the guts to us. They just show like, hey, he's looking at some guts. So that again, I appreciate the animation team. Not only does it, the animation look good for what they're doing, they're not just, here's a bunch of gore because and shoving it, in our face. They're not doing that. It is very tasteful considering it's not a fun topic.
The battle ends, and guess what time it is? It's time for another montage. And this time it's a battle montage. And we see Thorfinn getting better and better on the battlefield. And give me more. Give me a montage an episode. I don't care.
We got two montages in one episode now.
Like, just keep feeding me montages. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't mind them. By the way, the passage of time is pretty quick. How did they say? Okay, he's 12 now, right?
Yeah, so
He's doubled his age.
they were showing the montage, and I like how they use the montage as like a time skip without just doing a time skip and not showing anything that happened. Like they very easily could have just like time skip. It's 6 years later, but the fact that we saw like Thorfinn growing as a warrior over that time was really cool.
And I like
Uh,
how they subtly they make him a little bit taller. They show his hair growing out to show the time is passing. I thought that was pretty clever.
yeah, but in typical anime fashion, though, they had to do like, oh, just your average 12-year-old middle schooler, and he's like completely jacked and killing everyone. And I'm like, you ever see a 12-year-old in real life? Uh, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not so sure that. Then again, I can think of
He's
a
a,
couple early bloomer kids in like middle school who were like, I guess they hit the growth spurt really early. I don't know, but even then, whenever you're that young, you're pretty awkward and uncoordinated. So, I just don't. Anime always does this, where they make like kids who seem really young, capable of incredible feats, when in reality, like no 12-year-old.
they probably could have started this show with Thorfinn being 8 and him now being 14.
I think that would have worked way better, personally.
But I mean, it makes sense that he's more jacked than an average 12-year-old, seeing that he's on the Viking pirate diet and going to battle so much.
And you see his genetics. Good
Yeah.
gosh, Thor's is a monster.
Thor's may have came out as big as Thorfinn is now out of the womb.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, but I wonder. I wonder the way anime does stuff sometimes. Um, a lot of times, in anime, we talk about stylistically. A lot of times, the big beefy characters are not portrayed in a positive light. Like, the skinny little guy is always better than the big beefy guy. And I think it's a cultural thing where, like in Japan, this self-insert, people are built smaller there. So like people want to see like a smaller, skinnier guy being able to compete versus but in America we like our big beefy guys, Superman, All Might, Guts from Berserk. Like we like our beefcakes, So like in America we're that way, but in Japan the smaller guys are more popular. So I think that's another reason you often see characters like that, where yeah, that the guy who's a foot shorter than everyone else is like winning. When in reality, that's not how that actually works. Usually the guy with the bigger reach, it's a better chance of winning that. Yeah, bigger reach, bigger muscles, stronger, faster. No, no, no. The little guy won, guys, because we have to market to our Japanese audience who prefers that kind of hero, I guess.
So the montage ends, and like I said, the year is now 1008. 6 years have passed. Thorfinn is now 12. And you can tell Askeladd's starting to trust Thorfinn more. And he tells Thorfinn to go scouting. And Thorfinn has that preteen attitude of like, why should I? And Askeladd just sort of like puts his finger and runs it across his like slashes across his neck. And Thorfinn's like, all right, fine. And Thorfinn's out and about, and he takes out some English soldiers on his own, and he's handling himself pretty well until he gets shot with an arrow, and he sort of flees into the river, and we see a mother and daughter finding they find Thorfinn laying over the branch with the arrow sticking out of him, and we see them rescue Thorfinn pretty much. They take him into their home. They tend to his wounds. They bathe him. They're taking care of him until he recovers. And a dog wakes Thorfinn up, and you can tell Thorfinn's like pissed. Like he's very annoyed at the dog, which I mean, I get it. You're 12, you just want to sleep. First time in a real bed for who knows how long, and someone or something is waking you up. And then he realizes how hungry he is. And because the mom and dad are like, oh, the mom's like, oh, eat with us. And he's like, no, screw you. And then he's like, oh, I'm hungry. Okay, I'll eat. And the daughter is very hesitant this entire time helping Thorfinn because she thinks he's a Dane.
I mean, he may as well be, right? He's traveling with the Danes. He's working for the Danes. He doesn't speak your language. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. It's like, mother, this is clearly an enemy soldier who wants us dead. You know, he reminds me of my kid.
I love that from the mom. Like the mom's like, "Ah, oh, he's fine. He reminds me of little Johnny. Johnny
Eh,
was," and she's like, "Oh, Johnny was about your size and your age before he died from a cold." And it's crazy to think that a cold is what killed the mother's son, but like the mother had, you could tell the mother had blinders on. I mean, maybe she had blinders on. Maybe it was just a, I'm not going to betray a child. He's a child. He may be with bad people, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's bad.
I mean, big props to her for, you know, I'm pretty sure that she was like aware that this is an enemy person, but to her it doesn't matter. You know, the right thing to do is to help someone in need. So I was impressed by her.
I mean, we see her protecting Thorfinn from the English. A soldier comes up and is like, "Oh, we've spotted a Dane about this kid's height. Like, who is he?" And the mother's like, "Oh, he's my son, Johnny." And like Thorfinn is grabbing the dagger behind him, ready to strike in case shit goes sideways. And the mother's like, "No, it's fine. We're all good here. Thank you, though." And like the mother starts giving Thorfinn a bath and washing his hair and getting the fleas out. And she's like, "Oh, my Johnny hated when I would give him a bath and comb his hair. And you remind me so much of him." I can't remember if the kid's name was Johnny, but Johnny just seems like a good name.
it's just John.
Yeah, I think it
I
was
think
John.
I think so, but it feels like moms would call them their son Johnny.
Makes sense. But yeah, no, it's almost comical how she's like, and even later she just starts calling him John after a while.
Yeah, like she yells out to him saying John when he runs away,
And so you just like just feel bad.
and
Maybe
we
maybe she was
okay.
kind of hoping that he was going to stick around.
Yeah, I think that was just oh, I have a chance to replace my son with someone that's about the same age and same size. Maybe this is because she's talking about how she's a good Catholic woman and everything. She's probably thinking this is a sign from God, like, oh, you took my son, but now you gave me a replacement that someone I can tend care for.
That was a mistake on her part.
Yeah, and you could sort of tell like Thorfinn is like thinking about like how great this is all is. Like he's very much enjoying like getting fed and like you could tell he's starting to warm up to them. And then he's like he just grabs that piece of wood from the fire and tells the mother and daughter to run. And then he lights the hut on fire to signal Askeladd and the crew to come ashore.
Yeah, they have that where he's Thorfinn's like staring out the window, and like mom and daughter are just talking like, we should turn him in, and we shouldn't keep him here anymore. And he just gets up, takes the plank of wood, and he's like, run, run away, and then he runs.
It seems like he really didn't snap into that mode until the daughter said something about him like being a dirty Dane.
I'm wondering because he was looking out the window. I wonder if he saw you know, something of the ship, or maybe something reminded him, like, "Hey, it's time. I need to do this." Or maybe it was the daughter. I don't know, but it was. I just think that was kind of interesting because he's staring out the window the whole time. And then all of a sudden, he just gets up. So I'm like, did he see sign of the ship and he knew that he had to go signal them?
And even Askeladd is like, "Where the fuck is the signal? Like, come on, Thorfinn! Like, what are you doing?"
And then right on cue,
It's like, "Ah, oh, yes, I mentioned the signal, and the signal has has been lit."
light the fires of Gondor.
So Askeladd and his crew, they land on the beach and they rush out and start killing and chasing the villagers into the forest. And the English soldier from earlier is like, "I knew you were a dirty Dane." And like he goes to try and attack Thorfinn, and Thorfinn's like, "Nope, you're dead." And Thorfinn has such an intense look on his face after killing the English, and he only snaps out of it after he sees the English mother. Like he is so in the zone of anger and rage that the only thing that stops him for a brief second is this mother figure.
I do like that they show that despite the past 6 years being full of rage and anger, um, Thorfinn still remembers his roots, like where he came from. There's still like a shred of humanity within him. And there is chance at redemption for all the terrible things he has done as a pirate, essentially.
I think they even show like when he sees her and he kind of snaps out of it a little bit. Don't they show like a quick flashback to like Helga and Ilva? Like
Yeah,
he's remembering,
and Thor's.
yeah, like he's remembering. I had a mother and a sister and a father, and I'm doing these terrible things.
And Thorfinn gets very upset at the mother, saying, "I told you to like." He's upset for her not running away, and he's like, "I told you to run. I even said it in your language. Like, I said it in English, like not Dutch or anything." And she has tears in her eyes at the betrayal, and I'm sure she's like, "Ugh, guess I'm not. Guess this isn't my son." And I know this is a small gripe, but and it's hard to really portray in this, but like being watching the dub, and I'm sure it's the same way in the sub. Like we're supposed to have them be speaking different languages, and it's like, okay, well, watching the show, they're speaking the same language, so it's like, I wish there was a way to like denote, like, hey, these characters are actually speaking Dutch, not whatever you're watching the show in, and the English characters are actually speaking English. Like it felt like it would have hammered that moment home a little bit more.
Yeah,
But like,
I've seen a few shows where they try to throw like multiple languages at you, but they're doing it in either all Japanese because that's their native language, or when they, do it in English, you hear everything in English, but it's supposed to have different languages with people trying to, and it is always kind of awkward. You're trying, well,
yeah,
are they speaking English or are they speaking their language? And I'm hearing it in English, so I know what they're saying.
right,
That's always
I have a
kind of
feeling
weird.
that's only going to continue because as Vikings they go to foreign lands and
yeah,
they raid along the coast and everything like that. So I'm sure we're going to see even more. Eventually when they make it to Vinland, they're going to find natives, right?
oh yeah.
So the natives are going to speak a different language, and it's going to be. I agree. It's a little confusing
It's a
sometimes.
minor gripe, but it's just like, oh man, I wish there was a better way to like really hammer home that moment. And the episode ends with like Thorfinn is watching all the crew running past the mother, and the mother just sort of disappears. And the episode ends with Thorfinn picking himself up and running into the village with the rest of the crew, and we see the brush on the ground broken.
Can we talk for a brief second about the dead look in Thorfinn's eyes after all that happens?
That was something.
He remembers his family, and then he sees her just like disappear while the rest of the pirates run past, and they go back to his eyes. You had that moment of where like he remembers his family, and you could see like normal like life in his eyes, and then when his pirates run past, the old lady mom disappears. The look in his eyes, just like his eyes are totally glassed over, like he's just totally dead inside, and he decides to just follow the pirates on the murder spree.
Yeah, you think he'll ever learn the lessons his father tried to teach him?
Eventually,
At the end of the show,
I was gonna say probably the last season or last arc, he'll finally start realizing Thor's teachings.
Yeah, when he'll have like a daughter and a son, and there'll be some Viking who wants him dead, and he'll be like, "Don't kill people," and then he'll die, and then his son will go on a revenge quest for him.
little deja vu. This seems really familiar.
Or Thorfinn will ignore his father's teachings and say, "My father wouldn't be dead right now if he'd just killed some people. So we're gonna do it.
Let me in there.
I gotta kill. He could kill 40 pirates on his own. We can make it happen. We're gonna do it again."
So that concludes episode 5 and 6. What did you two think of these episodes?
You want to go first, John? Or you want me to go?
Sure, I'll go. Very good episodes. I see them more as like transitional episodes than anything else. I could see some people thinking maybe the episode with um the episode 6 being a little boring, maybe, but I do not think so. I had a really good time watching it. I am full steam ahead on this show. I cannot wait to watch more.
How about you, Turtle?
I really like these episodes. I think they're both incredibly depressing, but I think they also have a lot of bearing as to what's to come forward and how Thorfinn is going to evolve as a person. Um, I really like these. I'm definitely on board with this show now. The first two episodes, I was like, yeah, okay, and then 3 and 4, I was like, all right, I think I got this. And though these two episodes, they have a lot of sadness and depression in them. I think it's important for paving the future for Thorfinn and who he's going to become. And I'm very interested to see what happens. So I like these a lot. I can't wait for more.
Yeah, I really enjoyed these episodes as well. I don't think this will be the last episode that we get a time skip. So I'm hoping for the next time skip we get another montage and give me more montages. I don't care what they are. Just give me more. But I am very excited for the next two episodes. Because it seems like we're really foot on the gas now. And now it is time for the waifu of the week. Turtle, who is your waifu of the week and why?
This week, I'm going with the old English lady. Mom. They didn't really give her a name, I don't think. I'm picking the old English lady because I just love that, she's doing what she feels is right and helping someone who is hurt. It's in this case it's Thorfinn. He's a kid, you know, she definitely maybe has some blinders on and she's not seeing the full picture where her daughter is, you know, very I guess realizing that he's a Dane, obviously he's here and he's gonna cause a problem. And especially when the soldier comes, he's like, "Oh, we're looking for a scout. He's about his age," and she's like, "I knew it. See, I told you." And mom's like, "Well, no, he's fine. It's John." I'm like, "It's not John." But besides that, she found someone who's hurt. She's doing the right thing, healing him up. Yeah, you might be my enemy, but you're just a kid, and nobody deserves to just die in a river all alone. So at least I can do is try to heal you back to health. So despite the fact that it not ending well for her, she did the right thing, and I appreciate that, and that really stuck out to me. So I'm going with the old English lady.
Sean, who is your waifu of the week and why?
Turtle went with the old English lady. I'm gonna go with the young English lady, who is like, "Hey mom, this is definitely an enemy soldier. You should definitely turn him in." And then old English lady was like, "No, this is my son now." And she's like, "You're gonna regret it, mom." And she's like, "Nah, I won't." And then, yeah, they regretted it. So
Mom, this is definitely a trap.
yeah, the common sense of young people. Just turn Thorfinn in.
But then we wouldn't have a show.
Yeah, well, sometimes I wish they would make like 10-minute episodes of things. Like, here's a 10-minute show that tells a story, and it's just like, yep, anticlimactic. Main character's dead. The end. There's a reason they don't make those shows.
One episode animes.
One episode, exactly.
My waifu of the week this week is Askeladd. Yes, he's a dick, but you can tell he's being, like, the mentor in his own way. Like, he didn't have to say to Thorfinn, "You swing the weapon, not the other way around." And once you become a true warrior and prove yourself on the battlefield, then we'll have another duel. And, like, he's looking out for Thorfinn in his own way. Like, he's an asshole, yes, but this feels like that character that starts off as an asshole and then everyone loves by the end of the show. He feels like your Vegeta. Thank you all for joining us this week as we watch Vinland Saga. We hope you join us next week for episode 19 of the Anime Banter podcast, where we will watch episodes 7 and 8 of Vinland Saga. Please give us a 5-star review on Spotify. If you are listening to the show on YouTube, please like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and leave a comment. Turtle, do you have anything you would like to plug?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, RPG Treasure Trove, where a friend and I sit down couch co-op style and play through an RPG game. So if that's something you're interested in, please check me out. Like the videos, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what I do, leave some comments, I'd love to chat. And currently I'm playing through Pokemon Y as of this recording. So if you want to check that out, please do. I also have a poll up to vote for the next game that I play, so feel free to throw up a vote.
Sean, do you have anything you would like to plug?
As always, please listen to the Demon Files podcast. We're starting season 2 this fall. So if you want to get caught up before we air season 2, now's the perfect time. We're only 12 episodes in. It is not hard to catch up. So catch up, follow, listen to the new season.
The Anime Banter podcast can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you all for joining, and we will talk to you next week.